Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited. This is video 2 in my apartment. Super pumped. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Some love, yeah? Show your girl some love. Some love. So the focus of this video today is my foundation routine for oily skin. Guys, I think I've explained over and over again, I have very oily skin. And I was just like, you know what? I am not the only one out here with oily skin. I'm not alone. So if you are interested, keep on watching. So I was like, girl, you need to fill. It is time. I think I'm like 3 weeks. But anyway, let's get started. So I already have my brows on. So first things first, blot off the excess oil. Let's just go ahead and just say it. Take the oil off first. So I'm using the BOSCIA charcoal wipes. I really like these. And wherever you see like a little bit of shine, just blot it off. Just go ahead, go for it. Take off the excess oil, because I do use a primer. And the primer I'm going to use today is a Bite, the CHANGEMAKER primer for oily skin. It's super mattifying. But what I notice is when I do apply like my primer and my skin is oily, I'm just mixing that oil around. Like, ain't nobody trying to do all of that. So, CHANGEMAKER. And I'm going to use a little bit. And I'm going to be focusing more so on the areas where I'm extremely oily. So that's down my T-zone, down the T, on my nose. My forehead gets shiny, but that's where I focus my primer on, to be honest. I don't put it all over the face, because even though I'm oily, I do not care for a super matte look. So for those people who believe, oh, I'm oily, so I should get a matte foundation, if your look is not matte, then that's not your look. Like, because you have oily skin, you must only wear matte foundation. No, you don't have to. However, just please know, because you are oily, when you do opt to use like hydrating, dewy, you're gonna appear or seem a little bit more so because you already are on the oily side. So just know for that. But I'm using the mattifying primer, but I'm not using a mattifying foundation today. My foundation of choice is going to be the hydrating foundation from Fenty Beauty. So I just let that primer set in. Now this is an extra step that I've started to do because I've seen that it worked, and it works really, really well. I'm using a powder, a translucent powder, before I apply my foundation. Now, why am I doing that? I'm doing that because it does extend the wear of my foundation. That's one. Two, it literally keeps me a little bit more matte in the areas that I want to be matte longer. So what does that mean? I don't appear shiny. So I'm using the Hourglass. I love this powder because it is truly translucent. I feel like a lot of powders that claim to be translucent are not, but I really enjoy this one. It doesn't give me a white cast, and I just like it. It's weightless, and it doesn't smell talky too. Sometimes there's some powders out here that they do smell kind of talky, and I ain't trying to smell all of that. But the technique I'm doing is like a press and roll, so I do get really oily on my cheeks, so I'm just focusing a lot of the powder there. Also, I'm going to do a little bit on my chin and a little bit on my forehead. I do get shiny on my forehead, but does it like typically bother me throughout the day that I'm so oily on my forehead? I would say no. It doesn't kill me, but on my cheeks, I hate to look like a slick on my cheeks. Especially when it's just like if I have a breakout or something, like I don't like to look like slicky on my cheeks at all. So I'm just pressing in the powder. So here you go. You see there's no like white cast. So I highly suggest it. If you guys don't have like a mattifying or setting powder that you are in love with, get the Veil from Hourglass Cosmetics. It's fire. So I'm ready for foundation. My skin is all prepped. So I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. There we go. It's all prepped. So now I'm gonna use the hydrating foundation from Fenty Beauty. I'm using the color 370. And today's Monday. What kind of look I'm going for? So I did a pump and a half. So again, the reason why I'm using the hydrating is because I do not care for a very matte look. That is not my look. It's never been my look. Will not be getting comfortable in that look. Now, if I chose to use a mattifying foundation, I wouldn't use a mattifying primer. The reason why is because matte on matte, ew. Who does that? Are you dumb? Do not do it. Because if you have texture on your skin, all that's gonna do is create more texture. And we don't wanna do that. So I like to use the hydrating, not because I wanna cut texture, it's because I want to. So I'm using the full body foundation brush and I'm just doing like little dashes. And I like to break my face apart. I don't like to do the dot. We don't do that here. In this house, we like just take our time and we just build the coverage we want. Okay, I'm almost satisfied. We build the coverage we want. And this is like a really natural look I'm gonna be going for today. I'm gonna be running a few errands and I wanted to put a video together. So this is gonna be my look for the day. And again, like what I do like about this foundation, you can build the coverage. And I typically build coverage throughout here, but I'm wearing a mask today all day, so it doesn't even matter. It doesn't. It doesn't matter. And I don't know if you guys noticed, like I don't really wear foundation on my forehead. Barely. I barely put foundation on my forehead. I don't care to do so ever. So it gives the skin, like if you're looking, like it gives the skin like a glow. It looks natural. It looks like effortless. It doesn't look too drying. I do not like to be dry. Even with my skincare, like I have oily skin. Yes, I have like, I actually do not use oil controlling products. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I do not use oil controlling face products. When I had acne, I did not use, like when I had bad acne, I did not use like acne focusing products. I kind of had to look at the end goal first. So my focus is like brightening, even skin. And you know, like, and when you're using like brightening and you trying to focus on evening your skin, a lot of those actives are what fights acne. Because what I was learning was, or what I was experiencing when I was using acne products, it was drying my skin out like so bad. If anything, it was making my skin worse. And even if I stuck to a system, it was just, I just don't like my skin to feel dry. So, you know, for anyone who's like acne prone, oily skin, whatever have you, and whoever said that you have to use like this specific product or you are oily so you should have matte foundation, that is such a negative. If it's not your look, it's not your look. If you don't have to conform to what everybody else is doing. Like that's their look, that's their option. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest with you, I don't feel comfortable when my skin is too matte. I don't feel comfortable at all. And it could be because I have a little bit of texture or whatever have you, but it almost makes me feel like my face is stiff. Like, I hate how that looks. Like, I don't want to look, I want my skin to, you know, flex, fold, like, not like, oh, it's so matte that I can barely smile. Like, I don't know. So now I have my foundation everywhere. What I'm going to do is set. So my choice of set is the Slick from Urban Decay. Again, this is a oil control one, but I do like to use this right afterwards. So I'm going to spray. And I really get a lot of benefits from using that spray. There's some other ones that I have experienced that I was like, oh, this really works as well. But yeah. So I'll let that dry down, and I'm just gonna like put a little bit of concealer on. I'm using the color 340. Use my finger. I know sometimes there's like those do's and the don'ts with like oily skin. Like, oh, you shouldn't use your fingers because you have oil in your fingers and things like that. I feel like do whatever is comfortable for you. Of course, I highly suggest you sanitize your hands. You do whatever it takes to kind of like make sure you're not like transferring bacteria to the skin, especially if you have a lot of sensitivity. But do whatever is normal. Like, I honestly did this with my fingers, and I actually feel like it did a lot better than what my brush did on this side. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like, me just like kind of warming it up to my eye area, or warming it up around the skin in my eye area, because you know the skin around your eye area is a thinner layer of skin. So, you know, being a little bit extra or showing it a little bit more TLC is like okay. Yeah, and I'm just gonna tap down here. Yeah. And I'm gonna actually absorb some excess oil with my blotting paper again before I set with a powder. I'm always typically oily right here. So look, that's like oil right there already. And I'm doing more of a press than anything. Yeah, and that looks actually really good. Just taking that, going the extra mile, like just doing a little bit extra, knowing that you need to prep a little bit more for an oily skin type. It could be necessary. It's necessary for you to kind of, you know, put your best foot forward or your best look forward, you know. So I'm going to be using my Fit Me Maybelline powder in 334 Warm Sun underneath my eyes. I'm obsessed with this Mars makeup brush. They do not sell it anymore, but I love it. Again, this is just like a natural kind of beat, nothing too much. And again, I typically do not set my entire face either. Because when you start putting extra product like bronzers, it's almost like becomes oversetting a little bit. That's what I do. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab my KVD brush. I like to use this, especially when I do like a more natural look. I don't actually let my powder sit underneath my eyes like a baking. I don't do that at all. Doing like short presses underneath my eye. And then also this is where I kind of get oily too. This is where my oiliness kind of starts to surface. Or I like to call it a hot spot, where you see a lot of like movement, like mid-afternoon movement. You're like, you know, when people say, well, I look perfect when I left the house, and then like by 12 o'clock they look a mess. It's because you have hot spots, which is natural. Like, putting the powder again, the Hourglass, and I'm doing short like presses too. In the areas I get oily, just short presses. And I find that this powder is kind of blurring too. Like, this is where you want to pull out your blurring powders. You want to pull out all those things just so you can have the most flawless look. And just taking that extra time, knowing that you want to be like a supernatural today. You don't want to look like you did too much. So sometimes it requires you taking spend a little bit of extra time on the skin. And that's okay. Perfect. So you can see that I'm pretty much set. Like, this is a natural look for me. I'm oily, but my skin is not shiny. And this is my everyday, like my skin gives like a little bit of a glow, or it gives you somewhat of like a pop, but it just looks super natural, but not overdoing it, not over shiny. And that's it, like pretty much how we're looking. Bronzer, just to kind of give me some definition, and a little bit of Gloss Bomb Cream in Fenty Glow. But guys, this is a short video. I just wanted to do a quick routine on how my foundation routine on oily skin. So here's some quick takeaways when applying foundation on oily skin. Step 1, make sure you're removing the excess oil. However you choose to remove it, if it's by using a blotting paper or using a setting powder or whatever have you use to kind of remove the oil from your skin, do that. Step 2, best thing to do is use a powder. Use a powder before you apply. After your primer, use a powder. Just to kind of in those hot spots where you get super oily. So like for me, it's like my cheek area, right here, in my smile lines, and on my forehead. I get super oily there. So that's where I'm gonna take a translucent powder and do a press and roll technique. Step 3, I'll go ahead and apply my foundation. Now I take my time how I apply my foundation because I know what kind of look I'm going for. So based on your look, if you're on the go, whatever you choose to do, make sure you apply it and apply more coverage in the areas that you want to have more coverage. After you do that, or step 4, make sure you set your foundation where it is at the time. I use the Slick, but there's amazing other setting primers, setting sprays where you can kind of lock in your foundation. That's one thing, or one key with applying foundation on an oily skin type. They do not lock in that foundation. They're doing construction around here and I'm over it. Step 5, apply your concealer wherever you need fit. Step 6, don't forget to set your foundation with, again, that translucent powder. That is ideal. That's what you want to do. That's the whole point, right? You want to have something that has longevity and it's going to stay on. So, and you don't want to appear as oily. Again, lock it in with another setting powder. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll see you next time on the next video.